Soften up the mess, drop it in the water, let the daughter find an image with the...
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So let's jump right into it and let's talk about this retie. So I went and got my first retie done about a week and a half ago, and what an experience. Okay, so I did run into a few hiccups along the way since then, and I just want to share my experience with you because it's not one that I've seen a lot of people talk about when they talk about getting reties. For my retie, I went in at the 5-week mark. I was due to go in at 4, but my loctician caught the flu, so she had to reschedule. A few hours before my appointment, she reached out to let me know that she was still working on an install and it was taking her a little bit longer than anticipated, so she wanted to reschedule again. And what she told me, if I wasn't comfortable with doing that, then she would refer me to another loctician that can do the retwist or the retie for me. And because I had already saw the lady's work that she was referring me to, I just, happily went over to allow her to do the retie. Again, I saw her work because my coworker went to her for a retie and it looked fine. So I was like, okay, I can go to her, which is what I did. At this appointment, she shampooed, conditioned my hair before she did the retie. Now, what I found was interesting is most of the videos that I watch, people talk about braiding and banding. Well, when I got there, she said my hair looked fine and she didn't think that I needed to braid and band, so we didn't do that. She skipped that part because I had very little slippage. I only had slippage across the front, which is where my hair is the softest, and the shortest. She did have to rebraid some of those and then before she went ahead and retied. The next day, I was checking my locks or my braids because they haven't locked yet. I was checking my locks around the base where she was retying them. And I noticed I had some knots or bulbs, if you will, at the base of my hair. And it wasn't like that consistently throughout. So I began to get a little bit concerned when I realized that it was really the braid or the lock pushing back up through the last iteration. So my loctician did the 4-point rotation on my hair. And when they say the last iteration should be the way that you want your hair to lay. Well, as she did it, that last loop through, right? So if you think about them looping the Microloc from top to bottom and pulling it down, my braid was trying to go back up through the lock and it was bunching at the root and causing a knot. And what I did is I just pushed the braid back through the lock, that last iteration, and sprayed a little water on it so that it would lay flat because it had been bunched up. It kind of had like this little loop around, like the braid was kind of twisting, if you will. So what I did is I pulled it back through, sprayed a little water so that it would lay flat like the rest of them, and it corrected the issue. Now, I did leave a few in there because I wanted to see, had I left them alone and it grew out some, my hair grew out some, maybe the knots would kind of relax and I can just, pull it taut where it would just go ahead and lay flat. Well, that wasn't the case. The knot just stayed there. If I didn't pull it back through, then I would be left with a knot in the middle of my lock. I hope that makes sense. So I did fix that, and then I had 2 braids that had a knot in them that I had to comb down with the, the edge control comb where it has like the small brush and then a small comb piece on the other end. I took that and I combed out those 2 locks and I had to start those over because I can tell that when she retied one of the braids in the back, and I'll pop it up on the screen, that it's kind of like when you are sewing and you pull the needle through and it tightens before you can pull all the fabric through and it creates this knot at the end. Well, that's what it was on my braid. Listen, so I had some trouble spots. I have been able to fix all of them so far, so I am thankful. Now, I do plan on going back to her, of course, because I'm not sure if it was her technique or if it was my hair, because it wasn't consistent throughout. It was only about 10 to 15 locks that I had an issue with. But again, I was able to correct those myself in hopes that, you know, I don't see an issue later on down the line. I don't feel like she did too many rotations where it was really tight, because I'm telling you, I'm very tender-headed, and she was very gentle. Okay, there's only a few times where I felt like we hit a snag and it kind of made me flinch a little bit, but other than that, the retie process was great. Now, what I wasn't prepared for was the next day, because she was so gentle. I wasn't prepared that the next day my scalp would be tender. And that lasted for maybe a day or two. My goodness, like I've heard other people talk about, you know, the day after, or if people were a little bit too rough, or they locked it too tight, or those type of things. So I'm thinking because she's not locking it tight, then this wouldn't be my experience. But I guess it's because my scalp isn't used to that type of manipulation, right? So I don't know. But I will tell you, the next day or two, my head was really sore. But outside of that, I really haven't had an issue. I've lost no locks, and I did have to retie a few. So overall, the experience was great. And I know, y'all, this is short and sweet, but that literally has been the gist of my retie experience. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning into my channel. I love you. God bless. Bye.